KidStrong hits the hot seat. Coming up next. All right, first we start with storytelling, then we'll get into the business. But Matt and Megan, thanks for doing this. What's the backdrop on KidStrong becoming a franchise? How did you guys accidentally fall into franchising?
Well, I mean, there's a big story, but I can condense it.
We can do the clip notes.
Yeah, it really was an accident falling into franchising. We literally created this program for our daughter, Ella, when she was about 13 months old. She's 10 today. What we wanted for her at the time did not exist. So we would build our own equipment. And by we, Matt would build the equipment. I would watch him build it for her. And we basically created this little training facility in our house. We didn't have a dining room. We still don't have dining rooms. We just have like training stuff. So rock wall, ropes, rings, any and everything you can think of. We either bought or built she just started playing. We started training her. We didn't want a play date. We wanted a training program, not only for her physical development. We didn't care if she was going to be the best athlete, the smartest kid, but we wanted her to be the best version of herself for whatever she chose, kind of like winning at life, right? And that's how the whole vision started. Matt owns a CrossFit with our co-founder. He actually ended up becoming our co-founder, Lincoln Brown. We ended up renting space out of that gym. So we thought, if this is what we want for our daughter, imagine how many other parents want it for their child. So long story short, we started with about 20 members in the back of this space, and we would do pop-up classes, and that would turn into 40 kids and then 50 kids. We did everything on our own Facebook. So we didn't pay for marketing or anything, but we would take videos and tag all the parents. Matt would put everything on his Facebook. And I'll let him finish the story on who saw the videos in order to get us to Texas.
Yeah, it was a very small pop-up class that started in the CrossFit that Lincoln and I owned next door to it. And Lincoln and I had been in business together for 5 or 6 years at that point. And we were pretty familiar with the group, let's say like group fitness or group class model. And what we did was we applied that to kids, and tried to bring that framework over. And a lot of it was based on really good classes with really good coaches and having a program structured more around science-based milestones with kids. Because what we saw with every other kids program was it wasn't babysitting, but it was similar to like glorified babysitting.
It was a play day.
You would play with the kids. Yeah. The parents were disengaged. And from our experience with, our group fitness, we wanted to have really, really high level coaches, amazing classes, and then the program should be based on something. So that was kind of where it started. And then after we had the pop-up class in Kentucky, Lincoln and I were part of a tech company called Cosley at the time. And we were working with the group that owned all the Orange Theories in the Dallas area. So one of the guys that worked there kept seeing KidStrong and just hammered us to bring that concept to North Dallas or Frisco area. And, there was a year-long conversation of just hammering us once a week of, there's tons of kids here. It's a fast-growing city in the U.S. It would really benefit from a program like KidStrong. And after a year, we visited, and we're skipping a lot of stuff here.
Yeah. It doesn't happen that quickly.
But Lincoln and I's tech company was acquired. The office went remote, and there was opportunity for us to move to Texas to launch the program. And Lincoln was the first investor in the program too, because when we started in Texas, it was, it originally was just like our life savings were going into it. And then, it became more real when we started a company around it. And then we came to Dallas to launch the first one in Frisco. And that one launched really well. And what happened and how we kind of fell into franchising, and Lincoln had some background in franchising too, but we really fell into it because the first one did well in Dallas or in Frisco. And the group that invested in that one, because we had local investors invest, they were connected to all the Orange Theory owners at the time. Were very, it was a very tight knit community, and a lot of them were exiting with PE firms are exiting a lot of those owners, and they still wanted to do something in the health and wellness space. What we saw a lot of them were they were kind of hard charging in their 20s, and now they were having kids. And they were interested in health and wellness, but the kids space was kind of a barren wasteland at the time. And they saw KidStrong as a really attractive kind of next thing for them. So our first one that we launched franchise was in Ohio.
Yeah.
And then the second one was in Austin. And both of those were ex-Orange Theory owners. And then once those two launched and did well, it was kind of wildfire at that point.
Yeah, and I just want to add an important part of the why too. So it wasn't like we just woke up one day and said, oh, we want to create this for our daughter, right? So I taught physical education for 7 years before we had Ella. And I would see a huge correlation between physical development and social emotional skills in children. So for example, if they could run, jump, kick, throw proficiently, those were the kids that would raise their hand. They would look me in the eye. They had more, friends than the ones who couldn't run, jump, kick. They were your more introverted, shy children. And I remember telling him, when I would get off work, when we have our children, it's going to be our responsibility as parents. Like, we can't put this all on the schools, because by the time they're 6 and they go to school for the first time, that's 6 whole years where their little brains were sponges and they weren't getting, the reps at all that social emotional things that you need. So that's another factor that went into it, because once she was about 13 months and started talking, we agreed we have to get her into something for social skills. And in addition to physical, obviously, and that's kind of how we set up the program too. And the programming, do we have something physical in the programming? Do we have something for social, emotional? And then do we have something for like their mental, which is where all the academic stuff comes in. And I think because we set the programming up like that, that is when pediatric OTs started to get involved, wanting to be involved. And that was who our first coach was. Besides me and Matt, one of our first coaches ever was a pediatric OT. And she loved the program, and she was a huge asset, and she did a great job.
Franchising, though, wasn't the goal in the beginning. It was, I think initially we were just trying to build something for Ella. And then, we wanted to bring it to Dallas, and those were all corporate owned locations. But what ended up happening is we just had so much interest from people that had franchising backgrounds. And then when they would come see it, it was a lot of, I want that for my kids. I want that for the kids in our area. This thing doesn't exist. And a lot of the growth really came from that it worked.
Yeah.
Because there's just a lot of stuff for kids, but there's not a lot of stuff that works. And, when they would come to location, you have like franchise people come in and they would talk to the parents, and the parents would be like, well, my kid was really shy like 6 weeks ago. Now he's a different kid. Now they went to the family reunion, and all of our relatives are asking, what did we do with him? Or the school teachers are asking, like, what are you doing with your kid? The pediatric OTs are asking. And a lot of the momentum just really came from that it worked, and I would say one other thing that separated us a lot and still does, KidStrong is built just as much for parents as it is for kids. So there are a lot of, let's say, programs built for kids, and parents kind of begrudgingly go to those things, but they don't enjoy it. But we really looked at brands like Disney and Pixar, brands that, that the entire family enjoyed the experience. So half of the experience at KidStrong is really built for the parents. It makes you a better parent. It educates you on developmental milestones for your child. Everything from the colors to the music is all built for parents just as much as kids. And I do think that was one of the things that helped us attract a lot more people to franchising, was because they really enjoyed the concept. Because there are franchise concepts where people they just look at them as like an investment. They don't like the thing, they don't eat their own dog food. It's just an investment for them.
Yeah.
We do not have that here at all. Everyone that signs up with KidStrong has to be aligned on the mission of helping family and kids. They have to believe in the concept. And they have to be really into what we're doing, or it doesn't work.
And we've had a lot of, it's really cool now, years into this, when we get, people interested in becoming a developer, and we'll ask them their why, and they started out as members. So they saw their child in classes, they have their own stories, and it's just really awesome. It brings you a lot of joy.
Yeah, I bet half the people we signed this year start out as members.
It's really cool.
Which is pretty. I mean, that is a normal pathway in a lot of brands. I have a lot to unpack. First comment is, I don't even have to interview the two of you. I could just stay silent for this whole time, and you guys could just crank through this whole thing.
We're very passionate about KidStrong.
Yeah. All right, so a few things I want to. How many units are open right now?
133, 4, 5. We just opened 2. 135.
So
I'm getting corrected live. 135.
Insanity, right? The fact, if you look backwards. First follow-up question is,
with COVID in there too.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Have you guys taken the time to pinch yourself on how far this has gone?
We have 4 kids too, so there's zero time for any pinching.
I don't think you realize the speed until you get around other franchises, because for us, it's just, we're trying to open 10 this quarter or 15 this quarter, and you don't really realize the speed until you get around other franchisors or even franchisees. Because some of the stats to get to 100, I think, are pretty crazy. We've had people tell us it's like 5 to 10% make it to 100. It's it's really
lower.
Low.
Yeah, it's less than a percentage point make it to 100.
Yeah. So when we did celebrate for half a second at 100, but the issue is we had more openings the next week.
Yeah.
And I don't think you ever slow down to think about it. And that's part of, how we operate too.
Yeah. I think the one thing that's more joyful for me, besides the number of centers, is the amount of people on the team that believed in the concept that are helping us continue to grow. Because, you can always have an idea, right? But you also have to get other amazing, smart individuals to believe, in the company as well. And I think that's really cool. And the amount of people we've been able to meet because of KidStrong.
I remember really clearly when we hit 100 members, and then we passed 50,000 this year.
Yeah. In Lexington, I remember
when 100 was a big deal.
Yeah. We were like, we
probably gave somebody a discount to be 100.
We have 100 kids, that was big.
Well, here's my perception. This is not a dig on Orange Theory at all, but it lifts up what is the point of differentiation and why you guys have had the growth that you've had. At the end of the day, the people that bought into Orange Theory at that point in their investment careers are looking at exactly what you guys were just talking about. Is the investment model. Here's a good investment. And yes, you can get behind physical fitness and the need for that as an adult. No doubt about that. But it's not like you go to Orange Theory every day, even if you're changing some lives on people that needed to get into better physical shape. It's not like you're going in there every day as passionate about as what you're impacting on KidStrong. And there hasn't been a lot of business categories that have been created. You guys are somewhat the pioneers of this category, even though forever we've been talking about getting kids moving. And so now we think about what's behind the business opportunity. Yes, you can impact your community, and yes, you can make money, and yes, obviously you've engineered a good investment. But beyond that, there's a universal agreement that whether the kid is healthy or the kid is unhealthy, the problems that you're solving are there. And so now that you've hit into the emotional side of the investor, so would a franchisee wake up every day and be like, oh man, I'm so pumped up to sell burgers to my community?
Yeah.
Right.
No, here, the impact, whether you have one customer, you have 100 customers, the impact that you're having. And then what you guys said, as the layer up to the parents, the parents can look in the mirror and say, at least I'm giving my kid the tools to make the decisions on their emotional and physical well-being as they continue on in their lives.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, Lincoln and I had experience in the group fitness model, and, that's where we met, and she was part of that as well. But, we saw it at an adult level, when you can build like a really strong tribe and you can build these connections, and you'll have somebody enter the program and let's say like a certain level of mental health or happiness. And then through the program, 12 weeks later, like they're happier, they're healthier. And it was awesome. But with kids, it's like totally 10x that, and you'll see kids that really struggle in, 6 to 8 weeks later, like they're different kids. And almost every testimonial, we have tens of thousands of testimonials. I would say less than 1% are about physical. Almost every testimonial is
social, emotional.
My kid was shy, and now he's confident. My kid didn't want to go to school, and now he goes to school. My kid didn't have friends, and now they have friends. And it's all these like skills they develop through the program that just completely change the trajectory of that kid,
Right, yeah.
And a happy kid usually means like parents are happier, and a miserable kid means the parents are miserable. And we saw a lot of.
Well, as parents, you want to help your kids, right? So by miserable, it's like, how do we help our child? Because what do they say? You're only as happy as your unhappiest child or something.
Yeah.
So
it's hard because the parent has to go invent the tools to solve their child, like exactly what you guys were doing in your dining room. Forever parents had to solve this. So weirdish question. It's so simple. Why has this not been created before you guys created this?
I think there were programs for if you look at the space, almost all of it is 30, 40 years old, and it's all gymnastics based. And it's let's say it's more like dancing and clapping, an activity. I think the thing that changed kind of with our generation is, and some of this also came from like the group fitness and, the programming mindset, is what are the kids doing? And is it the right thing at the right age, specifically for their development? And if we can hit those right things at the right time, that kid is in a much different place developmentally, which breeds a lot more confidence. It allows them to go to school and, make more friends. And I think a lot of it, she was firsthand seeing kids were just struggling.
I think parents don't realize the years between 2 and 6. I don't think they realize how vital 2 and 6 is. So we kind of go through the movements, and I get it too. So I don't think I don't think people think about giving these kids the tools between those ages. And then they're like, oh, or they think schools are going to do that, but schools do not teach those life skills. Again, I was a teacher. They do not. And I think a lot of emphasis with children is just, let's put them in sports, which is awesome. Our kids play 50,000 sports, but the difference for our family is we wanted to develop them before they started sports and give them the tools. Then let's put them in sports after they're physically proficient and they have like the confidence to go in and do it.
Yeah, I think as an outsider, I think there's if I think through the pathway of even me as a child, sign up at the Park District. And the reality is, whether like a Park District class on physical activity would have been like you play soccer one week and then you play flag football the next week. So the fundamentals were there. In my opinion, here's the magic of what you guys did. Matt has the CrossFit background, and what CrossFit showed is different types of activities to get to the same destination. Like no matter how you program it, you're getting to a different destination when you're doing that for adults. So you have that from a programming standpoint, that you're creating a programming that doesn't feel stale and doesn't get stuck for the kid. But above it, like you guys nailed the naming of the business. I talked with, we were interviewing him for a job a long time ago, former CMO of Circuit City. Mm-hmm. I said, what was the hardest part of your job? And he said that my brand wasn't called Best Buy. And so when you think about that, like what you guys ended up doing, whether conscious or subconscious, the branding ends up simplifying this for the parent. So the parent like it's very simple. Like, why would I take my kid here? Well, I want my kid to be healthier emotionally and physically. It's very simplistic, that I think almost that pathway of simplifying the problem that you're going to solve ends up being part of the magic of why you're able to take off the way that you have.
I think we also thought a lot of the other kids programs were, let's say, like fluffy. Mm-hmm. And, part of the magic of KidStrong was just that we were all just at the drawing board and said, what do we want for our kids? And, you want them to be socially, emotionally proficient, because those things help in the playground, the classroom, like all of those things. Physically ready to do things, because when kids do inter sports, if they're developmentally like on track, sports are really fun. Yeah. But if you throw a kid into a sport and they're not ready, it's actually a pretty miserable experience. And a lot of kids go from iPad to soccer, and it doesn't like happen very, naturally. And it's not a great experience for the kids. And other kids know when a kid is not having fun or not good at something, even, at 5 or 6. And, for us, and one of the magics was, there was 2 things I think that really helped CrossFit grow, and Orange Theory copied some of them, but it made that class fun because it made it into a game. And it was just like this philosophy of like, this can be fun. And if it's fun, you'll actually enjoy it, and you'll actually, you'll get more out of it. You'll go harder. And then the other one was the community aspect. So I think a lot of that stuff came over. It's like, you need to have a really strong community. So whoever runs the location has to know all the kids by name. They need to know all the parents, all the coaches, need to know everybody. And you saw that, you see that in really group fitness concepts that do well. The owner usually knows everybody. They've personally hired everyone. And we look at Chick-fil-A for a lot of inspiration on some of this stuff too. But it's a very owner-operator model. And that means all the employees were hired by the owner, and they all know each other, and they all know all the families. And that's something I think that we tried to bring over from, the group fitness days. And then it had to be fun. So not to nerd out, but like we create our own music, because we want music that parents also enjoy. All the colors are based on colors that we think parents will think, are cool. The locations, I would say the locations have almost like a Nike or Adidas feel to them, because if you go to a traditional kids place, it feels very kiddie. The music, the colors, the smells.
Light pinks, light blues.
Yeah, that's right.
We call like pastel hell. But, we want it to be a place where like a entire family, mom, dad, and the kid walks in, and like, this place is cool. Yeah. The moms think it's cool, the dads think it's cool, and the kids think it's cool. And that's a very different look and feel than most any other kids place, because a lot of brands, I think, just copy and paste this kind of pastel, rainbow colory, soft, everything's really soft. And we want it to be more of like a science-based training program with professional coaches for families that want training for their family.
So there's two things that I want to pull out from what you just said, Matt. One is you started going down the path of talking about the impact of sports when a child is not good at it. The reality is the emotional toll that pushes on a child when you're put into category. We'll just use soccer as the avatar. If I'm cut from my team, I'm the lower performer. I have to ride the bench. Like all of those things. Now, could it build you to be stronger emotionally down the line? Sure, if you have the mental stability to get beyond it. But when you're in something where, and this is the magic of CrossFit, whether you can lift 1 pound or you can lift 1,000 pounds, you're still winning.
That's
and
right.
I think that's right. That's the part that's important. And I think if you translate that over to franchisees, the same is true for franchisees. When a franchisee is not performing like the others, or they feel like they're underperforming, then they start going to this negative place. And you could look at just the way that a franchisee behaves when things aren't going the right way. It's the same behavior that they probably had when they got cut from their baseball team when they were a kid, or they were not performing at the highest level. And so some of these things, like the reality is the formatting of your business ends up cross-applying well over to franchising. The other thing that I think is important to note, and I'm going to use senior care as the avatar here. I've grabbed the senior care brands and I shake them. I'm like, your customer is not the senior. Your customer is the 40 to 50-year-old whose aging parent is going to need care at their home. Yet all the brands go towards the Pastel in senior care. I think that's part of where you're going to continue to drive the magic. Yes, the end customer in the situation is the child, but the child's not going to pay the bills. And so when you engineer a business for the parent, what you're doing is you're speaking to your true customer, which I think a lot of businesses overlook in the way that they present their marketing.
Which is, that's why we think Pixar is such a great brand to look at, and Disney's a great brand, and even Chick-fil-A, those brands do a good job of attracting entire families. And it's not a place where you can't be a place where one of the groups loses when they go. Both have to win. And if both the parents, and even within parents, both mom and dad have to enjoy it, because moms will put up probably with stuff that dads will just kind of not want to go. But I think what we've tried to do is like make it something that both parents think is cool, and that the kids love it. And if you can do that and you win all three, like that, it really helps.
Well, also when you were talking about whether you lift 1 pound or 100, like you're there and you're still winning. I think something cool with KidStrong is there's different ways for these parents and kids to win based on their goals. Because we'll ask the parent, what's your goal for your child? Some of them is physical. I want my child to run faster, jump better. But a lot of times I just want my child to be more confident. And it has nothing to do, they don't care how many pull-ups their kid can do. But if over the course of 6 weeks, they've noticed progression with their child's confidence in different areas of life, mainly outside of the 4 walls is where parents are going to start seeing it. That's a win for them. So you can have different wins as a parent for your child and different wins during like the season you're in, maybe they come in wanting the confidence and then like 3 months later, their goal has changed. So there's different wins, different ways to win. But when you can have an impact on a family like that, it's just amazing.
I mean, I'll give you an example. Right now, we're going through a training cycle of ordering your own food. So in class, we have like a simulated restaurant counter, and kids as young as 2 to 3 have to go up. There's a menu board behind them, and they have to learn how to order their own food. And then there's an exchange, and they have to wait in line. And we get tons and tons of stories of, like, let's say the week after that, those kids will want to order their own food in a restaurant. And if you can start that stuff at like 2 and 3 and 4, that kid's on a very different path, because by the time they hit 6, 7, 8, they've had 100 interactions that other kids don't have.
And it sounds funny, but my sister used to be an elementary principal, and she said there are kids that come to school who will not order through the lunch line. They will not tell the lunch ladies what they want. So she was talking about how it's like an unforgotten skill. Can you actually talk to the lunchroom ladies and order your own food? And she said kids come in and they cannot. So
ordering will turn into getting up front of class and
Yeah.
saying something.
Yeah. That's
Now,
right.
if you can figure out a way to take all this training and make sure franchisees have the same confidence, then you will.
There we go.
Yeah.
So let's close on this awesome story. But what's winning for you guys next?
I think if we can continue to grow the brand and continue to grow the amount of kids and families that are in it, that's a win. And this is where I don't think we get as hung up on, getting like pinching ourselves on how many locations, because it's just like there's so many kids that need this. There's so many families that need this. There's so many places that we're not. That's really our focus. And, we want to grow healthy, though, because I think some brands will spin off the rails, too.
We want it
And
to
just
remain like,
Has to be good.
yes, consistent branding, programming, training.
Healthy franchisees, have healthy locations. Healthy locations have more families.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can maintain that, we're going to be in really good shape. But a lot of it's just like, what are we doing this next week, next month, next quarter? Because it's moving so fast. Yeah.
Well, enjoy the roller coaster, because I'm sure it's exhilarating, and I do think there will be something next, whether you guys find it or someone else finds it, for children's wellness. I mean, we could look at how big pet wellness got. We can see how adult wellness got, and there's so many extensions to this, and could be consolidation of programming. You take, again, like one of these like soccer classes in the parks. There's foundational elements that are good there, but it doesn't do what you guys are doing from the emotional and physical side. And I think there's going to be more that comes in this category. And frankly, I look forward to seeing where you guys' story goes. And I appreciate you sharing some of it with me today.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
For Matt and Megin, I'm Nick. This is another Franchisor Hot Seat. Take care.